exam for Janine to Sims Workshop. I hope you're all having a wonderful day. All right, we're gonna do my wrap up. Unfortunately, I didn't really get to read as much as I had hoped to. I caught a little bit of a cold, and then I went on vacation, and I thought, oh yeah, I'll get all this reading done on vacation. That did not happen. It's like when I open the book, Mommy, what's that? And my kids, and I love my kids, but if you are a parent and you are trying to read, there are reasons why I go into work 3 hours early. I work at a bookstore. There's a reason for that. So that I can have some time to read. So I did not get to read as much as I wanted to. I think I only read like 13 books, and I think my goal was like 18. I knew I wasn't going to read 18. Let's be real. That wasn't going to happen. But the attempt was there. The attempt was made. So I only read about 13 books, I think, last month. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12. I only read 12 books. I was shy one. So it's okay. No harm, no foul. I did get to do a lot of reading, especially because I had to like squeeze in a whole bunch of reading right before I went on my second vacation to go visit my grandmother and my family in Dyer, Indiana and Chicago, Illinois. So I was like pushing to read some stuff like really fast, and I'll talk about a little bit. Ow, just smacked myself in the face. As I get to these books. Alright, first up, Midnight at the Houdini. I was really worried about this book, mainly because the cover reminded me a lot of Hotel Magnifique. And if I've reviewed that one, which I hope I have, I hated that book. I really, really did hate that book. However, this book is nothing like that, and I'm so happy for it. It's very much, if you love Stardust, that is all the vibes. The hotel is being run by a star who's trapped, and she can't wish herself out of her prison. And it's just like this whole fun adventure, and there's a lot of like some bad guys. I'm just like, oh my god, you guys are awful. I really hope you get what's coming to you. And then you've got the wonderful, nice, heartwarming romance, some good character development. It was a really fun read. And definitely, if you love Stardust, either the movie or the book, I've only seen the movie. I know, sacrilege, but I do love the movie. I do love it quite a lot. So, I think that's what made me love this. When I realized it was a star, I'm like, oh my god, this is so much like Stardust. And I was just like, oh, yay! It made me really happy. So, that's, I really did enjoy that book, and I'm so happy that it was nothing like Hotel Magnifique. Also, avoid that book at all costs because it was such a waste of time. After that, I read This Will Be Fun. This was an ARC given to me by the publisher. And oh my god, it was the cutest, funnest thing in the world. So you have these, 4 friends, and they're not really friends anymore because the last quest they went on, one of, their leader died. So they all kind of resent each other for it, right? It's been a decade. They're all reuniting again for the princess's wedding, and oh my god, the villain they thought they killed, there's a plot to resurrect him. So what's going to happen? Well, the 4 people who are no longer friends are going to band together again and go on a quest. And it was so much fun. And it was a lot of fun because you're seeing these characters like really come to peace with themselves and come to terms with their own mistakes and how they reacted, and also make peace with each other, because there was no one's fault that their friend died. It was no one's fault for it. I mean, that's just how quests go sometimes. If you've ever played D&D, you know, sometimes you die. Sometimes you roll a 1 and it sucks. But then sometimes you roll a 20 and then it's great, and that's how this book ends, on a natural 20, let me tell you. And it's great. It's fun, it's quirky, it's lighthearted, it's adventurous, and it has fantasy. And I think we all know I love me my fantasy. Above everything else, fantasy. After that, for my friend Gina's Kiss and Tell book club, I did bring The Serpent and the Wings of Night. The best way that I can describe this book is Hunger Games meets Underworld. I love Hunger Games. I love Underworld. In fact, my husband bought me those, Celine's boots. And yes, I did wear them to the book club. I put on a whole vamp makeup inspired look. Matched the aesthetic of the book cover. And that's how I went to the book club. Because I'm all about a theme. It was such a good book. I enjoyed the complexities of it. A lot of people said it was like really slow for them. And I'm like, what are you talking about? This book moves. Like that first chapter really establishes, who Oriya is. I hope I pronounced her name right. Yeah. Who she is as a character, this world. She's prey living in the world of predators. And it's dark and it's dreary and very much like Underworld. And it's dangerous for her, So, is her father the best guy in the world? No. Not at all. Not at all. But I don't hate him. I got it. I understood where he was coming from. And, he did love her. I will say that. So, everyone's pretty much a morally gray character here, and I do like morally gray characters, and I think they were all developed really, really well. The only character that is a ray of sunshine, like truly, is Misha, and I will protect her at all costs. She is adorable. She's a sweetheart. She is literally a ray of sunlight, even though she's a vampire, and no harm better befall her. She is a treasure and needs to be protected. Even the characters feel that way about her. Even the human is just like, oh my god, is she okay? I need to protect her at all costs. Just like, wait, I'm a human. She's a vampire. She doesn't need my protection, but I will protect her. That's literally something that happens in the book. And I'm like, yes, I am right there with you, Oriya. She needs to be protected at all costs. But it was a really fun book. Well, not fun, haha, but fun as in like, it got my blood pumping. I was just like reading. I read it really fast. It was fast-paced for me, I thought so. Really good character dynamics. A lot of complex characterization, which I really did appreciate. And really good world building. I love world building, especially when it's trickled throughout the novel. I hate when authors just kind of unload information all at once, because then you're slowing down the pacing. And Broadbent doesn't do that here. She breaks up the story with vignettes, almost, of Oriya's past. And these moments are important. And they are important to the plot. And they are important to what's about to happen in the scene. Everything that happens is important and is written and structured in a way that makes it matter and does not detract from the pacing and does not detract from the storytelling and does not detract from the characterization and development. And I really enjoyed that aspect of it. Next was The Blonde Dies First by Joelle Wellington. Let me just tell you so much. I'm in love with the fact that slasher novels are really just coming out. Maybe they've always been there and I just haven't seen them, and they probably are, and I probably am too lost in my fantasy. I really need to read more horror, but I'm probably too lost in my fantasy zone to really be like, ooh, more horror. Because let me tell you, I love the Scream franchise, and I love me my Freddy Krueger. He is my favorite. If anyone asks me, who's your favorite villain? It's Freddy Krueger. It just is. I mean, he's just you know what? That's what they both have in common. Ghostface and Krueger, they're snarky. Maybe I just like my villains and bad guys to be snarky. But in any case, so in this book, it follows a group of characters, right? And I didn't write any of their names down. And why didn't I do that? Because I actually remember them, and now I've forgotten them now that I'm recording. I'm such a dodo head sometimes. In any case, you have your group of characters. You've got it's like at the tip of my brain too, her name, and it's bugging me. Watch. Later on in this video, I'm going to blurt out her name, and it's going to be hilarious. And if it doesn't happen, well, oh well. I'm sorry, still getting over a cold. But it follows, your cast of characters, and it's basically, this novel is if Jordan Peele directed or produced a Scream movie, because this book is perfect for fans of Scream. If you love Scream, there's literally a whole segment in which they talk about the rules of surviving a horror movie. And I'm just like, oh my god, Randy vibes right there. It's great. It is iconic the way the scene develops, because it's talking about all the tropes. And I love it. I loved it so much. And I really like the characterizations too, because you have Drew. That's the sister. Why can't I remember the sister's name? Because she makes fun. She's like, when they like Andrea, and she's like, don't call me that. Only they can call me that. You have to call me Drew. And I'm like, okay, nerd girl, like, relax. So her name I remember, because they really made a point with her name. But you've got your characters, you know, you've got the blonde, you've got, let's see, the token gay character. They literally call him that in the book. You have the asshole, the nerd, and then the independent girl, and then the final girl. So that's how they establish. Yasmin is the final girl. See, why am I remembering everyone's name? Bugging me. In any case, why did I not write her name down? Why? Why do I do this to myself? In any case, it's great because of how it just like takes all the tropes and just flips them on their heads. And I'm like, this is the greatest thing in the world, and I love it so much. And I just like loved it. It was great. For the horror fan in me, for the slasher girl in me, it was great, and I loved it. And I loved the characterization and the complexities that went into the characterization as well, because basically, your final girl's not just your final girl. Your nerd's not just your nerd. Your asshole's not just the asshole. They can fit multiple categories, you know? And that's what makes it really, really good. Because it's all about not being put into a box. Like, don't be put into a box. Because we're not supposed to be put into boxes. We can be whatever the heck we want to be. And I love that message in books. I know I've been saying that a lot lately, but I really do like that message in books. I really do think it, you know, says a lot. You know, don't put someone in a box. Just don't do it. But it was fun. It was energetic. It was a fast-pacing book. I almost called it a movie again. It would make a great movie. It really would. But, you know, if you like horror, if you like slasher, this is definitely going to be the one for you. After that, I read Godkiller, and I totally understand why this book took off. As a girl who was raised on Dragonlance, got some of it here, and there's a whole other bookcase of all of my mom's books from the 80s to early 2000s. In fact, that's not even all of them. Some of them are still in the box. But as a girl who was raised on Dragonlance, you know, I love high fantasy. I really do. I love high fantasy, especially books with quest. And, you know, everyone has to get together and go on a quest. And that's what happens in this book. You have Inara, Kisen, and Elogast, who likes to go by Elo, right? Did I at least write his name right? Yeah, okay. Their names I wrote down. You have them, and they kind of just fall in line together, right? They're not like, hey, let's go on a quest together. It's more of they meet, they come across each other's paths, and they're like, so I guess we're stuck in this together, so we might as well just, you know, watch each other's backs, kind of thing. Because she doesn't trust him because he is foreign military, and he doesn't trust her because she's a Godkiller. You know, she's basically a hired merc who goes around and kills gods who take advantage of their worshippers, which I think is, like, kind of cool. But she does have respect for some gods, you know. It's just like, look, do no harm, and I'm not going to hurt you. But if you start, you know, starving your village here full of innocent people because you're not getting the patronage you think you deserve, and then we're going to have a problem. You know, she's pretty cool. She's pretty cool. I got to the point where I was like already looking up fan artwork of her because I thought she was the coolest. I'm like, I need to see what people are trying Kisen because she's so cool and I want to cosplay as her one day. But it was a serious kind of high fantasy, not so much like, this will be fun, but it was a serious quest-filled fantasy, and it moved really quickly. And it's not a very long book at all, but it's just like so involved, and there's like really good world building and lots of backstory that, slowly develops over the course of the novel. And I was just like hooked, absolutely hooked, loved it. Now I finished reading it. I'm like, damn it, I need book 2 and I need to read it now. Do I have it yet? No. Will I eventually buy it? Hopefully. Will I get to read it this month? No. After that, for the Barnes & Noble book club, because I am the host, I did read Two Sides to Every Murder by Danielle Valentine. I think we already know I love Danielle Valentine. Her books are really cinematic, and this one was no exception to that. What I like about her books is they're very cinematic. You're reading them for entertainment. It's not... Don't expect to pick up this book and be looking for, like, hidden meanings or anything, because there really are none. It's just a horror slasher. That's it. It's pure entertainment, but it's fun. It's fun, and I think what I really like about Valentine is her, almost called it a movie, her book, again, very cinematic. It moves really quickly. It moves like a movie would move, and I don't see her plot twist coming. I really don't. She's really good at that. There was one plot twist I did see coming, and I almost didn't think it was going to happen until, like, the very ending, and I was just like, ha! I knew it! I was, like, waiting for it the entire novel, and then I finally got it at the end, and then that ending, I was just like, ooh, you're in trouble. And that's another thing she does. She leaves off on, horror movie, cliffhangers, where it's just like, yeah, I could write a sequel, but I don't need to. This is just how it's gonna end. And I'm like, God damn it. But it's good. It's good. It's good. It's entertaining. It's just a fast-paced slasher book. And sometimes you just need a little bit of light fun in your book. Some people read romance. I read slashers. That's my palate cleanser. Apparently. I've discovered right this moment. After that, I read Check and Mate by Ali Hazelwood. I needed to see what all the hype was about. Because, like I said, I don't really read a whole lot of romance. It's not really my go-to. But I'm like, okay, this is her young adult book. Let me pick it up and read it. See if it's something I like. I do like her realism in her storytelling. Her characters do feel very real in the sense that sometimes they can get so frustrating, and oh my God, Mallory was so frustrating sometimes. I wanted to hit her, and I found her dislikable sometimes. And then other times I'm just like, you know what? I get it. You're the oldest daughter. You pretty much blame yourself for your father's death. You blame your love of chess for your father's death. Like, she has a whole lot of baggage. You're giving up college to help your mother, who is just physically unwell and works freelance a lot of the time. You're helping your mother by working at a garage fixing cars. Like, this is not what you saw for yourself in your future. Like, you want to go to college, but you're giving up all your dreams to help, support your family, and your sisters don't even really seem to, like, there's a word. Can't I think of the word? Not respect. Although sometimes they don't respect her. Thankful. They're not grateful. There you go. Her sisters don't seem grateful for it half the time. So it's a lot of frustration for her. So I understand it. Even though sometimes I didn't find her likable, I understood where she was coming from. And then there were times where I did find her likable. And there was really good character development with her. Very good character development where she recognizes her flaws and people call her out on her bullshit. And sometimes you need that to happen. So when her and her, I will say, I think the best scene in the novel is when her and her sisters really get into it. And her sisters and her mom are just like, her mom doesn't like give it to her, but her mom's like, okay, let's have a talk. We need to start like unpacking our feelings that I've never, really forced you to do. But now I'm forcing you to unpack your feelings, right? So it was a really good read. I did enjoy it. I like the realism for it, and I like the way it ended. You know, it was fast, it was speedy, and it was, I like this world of chess that was made here. It actually made me interested in chess. And, you know, I'm not really, it's not like I've ever not been interested in chess. I've always thought it was like cool, and I wanted to learn how to play, and I did learn how to, my husband taught me a little bit until my son, who was 2 at the time, took one of the metal pieces and threw it at my toe. It turned my toenail black, so you can see where that went. I was just like, ding. But now I'm actually more interested in learning it again, especially because I do have the Harry Potter chess set, so I kind of actually want to play on it. So, you know, I kind of want to really learn to play chess just so I can play on my Harry Potter chess set. But other than that, you know, it's a really good book. I know I've gone on a lot of tangents in this video, and I apologize. But now you get to learn a little bit more about me. But it was a good read, and I liked the realism for it. Am I going to go read more Ali Hazelwood? Probably not. I am going to read Bride because I did get the Owl Crate special edition of it, and if I own it, I'm going to read it. So I did read Bride, and I am looking forward to that. But her other romance, it's not really for me. So I'm just gonna step away from that. After that, I read Wildblood. I think this is my least favorite book by Lauren Blackwood. I think you saw me like go head over heels for the Dangerous Ones, but this one, I think this is her sophomore novel. It's not that I didn't like it, I just couldn't connect to it. And maybe part of that is because I listened to it as an audiobook. So that's might be part of the problem, because you do absorb information differently. How you listen versus, you know, reading. And this is why I tend to prefer reading physical books. I think I absorb it better, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later because there's another book that I did audiobook. Actually 2 more. But in this case, I think the audiobook was the wrong way to go, unfortunately. So I struggled to connect to this book a lot, and that kind of sucks for me because I didn't really enjoy it as much as I enjoyed The Dangerous Ones, which I freaking love that book. But this one, it was just, it's not even that I found it boring or not well written. I like the story. I do like the real world development, and I did like how it did discuss the slave trade in a way, but overall it just wasn't for me. I didn't love it, and I was expecting to love it because I did love The Dangerous Ones, and I liked Within These Wicked Walls, but this one, no, just, it fell flat for me, unfortunately. And I really do think part of that is because I listened to it versus reading it. I think if I had read it physically, I would have enjoyed it much better. Because her other 2, well, no, Within These Wicked Walls, I audiobooked that one and I enjoyed it. Dangerous Ones, I read it and I loved it. So, connection. After that, I read The Unmaking of June Farrow. This was a trippy book. It reminded me a lot of The Lake House and Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. And funnily enough, both of those movies have Keanu Reeves. But it was, I mean, time travel books, man, they're wild. They're just wild. It's the time paradoxes that always get me. I'm just like thinking of the time paradoxes. I'm like, but it's a loop. It's a loop. And it blows my mind. And I'm like, but wait, if she never did that, like, it's just a constant loop and my mind doesn't want to shut off. It's thinking about this loop, and I love it. It's just wild. And you know what? This isn't a really thick book, and I want to. This is where my paradox comes in. It's not a fast-paced novel, but it moves fast. Does that make any sense? I don't feel like it does, but that's the paradox. because it's moving. It's just, you're going with the flow. You're reading the story. You're seeing how things unfold. And it's not like it's unfolding in like a really speedy manner. It's just moving. And you're just along for the ride. And I'm just like, whoa, wild. It was really good though. I really did enjoy it. And I'm really glad I picked it from my book club. And I'm glad everyone who voted for it. So it really gave me the chance to like push it up on my TBR. It was a wild ride. If you like time travel paradoxes, this is it's good. It's just like the loop going on and on. I'm still thinking about the time loop and like, but wait. Those are things that blow my mind. After that, I read Hex You. This is, I'm pretty sure it's the final book in the Sisters of Salem trilogy, I'm assuming. And I will say it was a little bit of a disappointment. First of all, I hate Mercy. I've hated Mercy since book 1. She is awful. She is the worst character. She is the worst sister to Hunter. Making her, she's like, well, no, you can't have a male god because it's a male god. Good sisters have always had female gods. It's your fault. She's awful. She's awful. I hate her. She does get what's coming to her in this book. I will say that. But I still hate her as a character. And oh my god, she's so annoying with her. Oh, bloody hell, or now booger it. And I'm like, you're not British. You're not British. Why are you talking like that? She's so annoying. And she comes off as so fake and superficial and awful, and I feel bad. I feel bad for Hunter. I'm like, wow, you had to deal with this your entire life. Even the ending, I feel bad for Hunter. Because Hunter I like as a character. But as far as the stories, it feels unfinished, even though it's done. It is finished. They wrapped up the story, but it wasn't cohesive. And that's the part that's kind of blowing my mind, because I'm like, it's not really cohesive, and it's not really the mystery wasn't really solved, honestly. It just kind of just solved itself, and I'm like, well, that was anticlimactic. It felt very rushed. So I'm wondering if the publisher's just like, yeah, we just want this to be a 3-book series, because they've done the Marked series, and that was like, I think 9 books, 10 books, but this one was so just kind of felt all over the place, felt very rushed, felt like it wasn't closed properly, honestly. And also Mercy is awful, and I hate her so much. And mind you, this is an audiobook. And I think if I'd had to read this book, I would have hurt myself, because I hate Mercy that much. So at least with the audiobook, I can just be like, oh my god, hurry up, or just skip her. I didn't. But the temptation was there. After that, I read These Twisted Bonds. So the first book, I will say the first book is really an ACOTAR dupe, and my friend Gina will say the same thing, and she loves ACOTAR, and she loved this book. This one, you know what's funny? She said this one wasn't so much. No, she said this one was still an ACOTAR dupe, and I can see where she's coming from, but for me, it felt more unique. And I think the reason she feels like it's an ACOTAR dupe is because Finn. I will say this. I like this book more than book 1. I really do think that Bree really comes into herself in this book. She's really like growing up and maturing here without losing her ferocity. However, Finn, this seems like a completely different character than book 1. And there were parts in the book where he felt like he was 2 different people. It's like there were some parts where he didn't feel like Finn. He felt like Rice from ACOTAR. It didn't fit with his natural progression of his characterization. Sometimes, it kind of fit the snarkiness, but it didn't feel like Finn, as a character. Not the Finn from book 1. Like, you got to see, he was more broody in book 1, I want to say. He was definitely a little bit more broody with less of a sarcastic streak, but here it's like he would flip a switch within seconds, honestly. And that's the part that kind of bugged me with this one, because I'm just like, you don't even feel like Finn right now, you feel like Rice. Rice? I've always struggled with his name. And I have read the series. But he felt more like him versus Finn, and that's where I think the novel feels a lot like an Avatar dupe still. Because overall, you know, I love the Unseelie Court, and I love the Seelie Court, and I love the Wild Fae. In fact, when I was reading this, I was just like, ooh, oh, the Seelie Court are the Sylvanesti. No, the Unseelie Court is the Sylvanesti, the Seelie Court is the Qualinesti, and the Wild Fae are the Cogonesti. And I'm like, oh, hey, look, a Dragonlance reference for me. And I enjoyed that a lot. I'm a nerd. I don't know what to tell you. I love Dragonlance. The final book of the month was Hearts That Cut. Okay. This is where the little chat about audiobooks is coming. I read this book. So this was the last book I read of the month, and I was trying to, like, really read it before I went on vacation, because I was flying and traveling with 2 kids. The less luggage I had, the better, right? Because I knew my family was going to give me a bunch of stuff for my kids. So I had to save room in my luggage for all the stuff that they were going to give me. But, so I went from, you know, reading the book to audiobooking it. I think I absorbed the information better as an audio book. Every time I was reading it, the plot is a little convoluted. Don't get me wrong, I do love the series, and I do love this book itself, but it does require some careful reading sometimes, because it's not just Greek mythology. You know, Kika, the author, she doesn't just use Greek mythology. She also uses different mythologies that I personally am not familiar with. So when she starts talking about some of the different Otherborns and the conspiracy plot that's going on, it becomes a little more convoluted and a little bit more complex. So it was a little harder for me to really absorb it when I was reading it. It was like, I don't want to say info dumping, because it wasn't complete info dumping, but it was a lot of information that I wasn't familiar with going on at once, and it was just like whiplash. So I would like get distracted easily when I was reading it, and that normally doesn't happen to me. Whereas when I was listening to the audiobook, I was understanding the book more. So this is one of those cases where I think the audiobook served me better than reading the physical book. I still hate her sister Thias. I don't think there's any redeeming. I don't care. I don't care. She was an awful sister to Io and Ava growing up, and I really wish Ava would realize that and recognize that. But I guess you're showcasing 2 sides as just being like, I'm gonna forgive her because she's doing her best now. And it's just like, I'm with Io, I'm like, I don't care. She was awful, and she gaslit me for my entire life. And then she did all this horrible stuff that resulted in the death of people, of innocence. No, she's not going to get my forgiveness. And I'm like, good for you, Io, good for you. I did not like that they called her Io in the audiobook. That kind of annoyed me. I don't know if that's the proper pronunciation, but I'm gonna keep calling her Io. But they called her Io, and I'm like, every time I was like, oh, I don't like that. But I think I absorbed the story and the plot better as an audiobook versus reading it. So this is one of those rare cases where the audiobook served me better than the physical book. So do with that information what you will. I do recommend reading the book, however. It is very interesting. It is like a very much noir setting. There is a lot of really good character development, and I do love the romance between Io and Ade. They're just so cute and wholesome together, and that the ending, even though it seems like the world is ending, there's like some hope there at the end. And I'm like, yay! I'm loving this. This is great. This is great. Love it. So those are the 13 books that I read. I'm sorry this video ran a little longer than usual. You'll have to forgive me. Still recovering over cold, and I know I went on a couple different weird tangents this time. My apologies, my apologies. In any case, let me know what you guys read this month. And if you read any of the books that I read, give me your opinions on them. I would love to hear them. Of course, each of these books will eventually get their own featured review, so I can talk a little bit more about them. But in that case, you know, thanks again for tuning in. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with all your book loving friends. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day, and as always, happy reading.